Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Glenn and this is our channel called The Way Back. This channel's run by myself and Steph. Say hello, Steph.
Hello everybody.
This is our first interview, which we're actually going to do with each other to start with. And then going forward, we're hoping to do at least a weekly interview with other people in recovery. And that's the plan anyway, but we're going to see how this one goes and see if we can get all the technical issues out of it. Steph, is there anything you want to say before we start?
Just welcome to our channel, and I hope that we can bring some valuable insight and information and resources to other people struggling with addiction and in recovery. So let's do this.
Excellent. Just before we start, Steph, do you just want to say a little bit about the sobriety date we share?
We share a sobriety date. It is the 17th of October 2016, so we are about 5.5 months sober. Is that right?
Fantastic. That's right. Okay, what's the first question?
Okay, so let's jump right in there. First question, and I'm going to ask you the question, Glenn, and then I will answer it as well. So when did you first realize you had a problem with alcohol?
Right. That is very recently, given the fact that I've been drinking for 20 plus years. So I picked up my first drink non-alcoholically, obviously, at the age of 15, and I'm now 43. I've only actually wanted to stop drinking in probably just over the last 2 years. I was quite happy drinking the way I was. I was holding down a full-time job, doing everything I was supposed to do, paying all the bills, what have you. High-functioning alcoholic, and I knew I had a drink problem. Deep down I knew I was an alcoholic, but because I wasn't hurting anyone, I just was happy to carry on. But I started to get a few health issues, and obviously my mindset was going downhill rapidly. So that's when I decided that enough was enough. And that being said, I tried to come off it, and as soon as I did that, I realised I was hooked, which was quite scary. What about you, Steph?
Okay, so similar to you, I started drinking around the age of 15, 16, weekend binge drinking. By the time I was in my 20s, I realized I had a problem. Well, I realized that my drinking was different from others around me. People joked about me being, the lush, and I was often the one that needed, to be carried home, or, it was clear that my drinking was different. Even though everyone was getting drunk, everyone was drinking heavily, I was different. So I spent 3 years in my early 20s in AA. I stayed sober, but I don't think I ever really accepted the fact that I was, alcoholic, forever alcoholic, that it was something I couldn't eventually learn to control. I never really got that part. I wasn't ready.
Yeah.
And then, I went back to, started with control drinking, which quickly led back to binge drinking. I wasn't drinking daily back in my 20s. It was weekends. But I knew at that point that it was a problem. It was always in the back of my mind all these years. I'm 46 now, and my drinking problem, I can sort of categorize it into the decades. There was the way I drank in my teens, the way I drank in my 20s was similar. In my 30s, it was more the control drinking, a little more home drinking. My husband and I, we had kids, and it was more the dinner parties and having people over, and just a different setting. But it was clear that I seemed to be the one that wasn't growing out of the getting shit-faced. I was finding myself drunk in situations where it was inappropriate. Everyone's drinking wine, it's a dinner party, but I end up on the floor and thinking like that's normal, and it wasn't. And there seemed to be nothing I could do about it. I didn't trust myself. Going out to a party, I knew what was going to happen. My husband knew what was going to happen. I would end up being carried home. It was embarrassing. It was humiliating, but it was just sort of the way I drank. Then by the time I was in my 40s, my tolerance had increased to such an extent that I didn't often get drunk when I drank. I was getting to the point where it was daily drinking, and my drinking was really to control the withdrawal feelings and the cravings, and I could drink such a large amount of alcohol without actually being intoxicated, visually intoxicated. It was, and then by the time I was in my, mid-40s, just before quitting, I was drinking a lot, and it was just to keep me from going into withdrawal. It was a horrible trap. So
sounds horrible.
So to answer the question, when I first realized I had a problem with alcohol in my 20s, but all the way through my drinking career, I knew that it was a problem.
It's interesting now, because obviously I was. It sounds like I was a little bit more happier to go on with it for a longer period. You realised early it was a problem, but were addicted. You were hooked already. Whereas I was happy-go-lucky, and it was what it was. It only come to a head with me when it started physically making me feel ill. It's interesting.
Well, I struggled for years with the wanting to moderate. I just wanted to be part of the drinking culture. My relationship with my husband, he's a drinker. All of our friends were drinkers. I just wanted to find a way. I kept trying to find that key, that way to be able to drink. Even if it was only small amounts, I just wanted to be able to sit with everyone else and have a drink. I just could never do it. Whatever limits I tried to place on myself, I just couldn't stick with them. I couldn't do it.
It always makes me giggle when someone mentions the normal drinker. What is a normal drinker? I've not met a normal drinker. If I had to write down a spec to what a normal drinker was, it would be someone who probably didn't like alcohol that much, and they just obviously they could take it or leave it.
That's what I was going to say. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, they just walk away with half a glass of wine left on the table, no problem.
Yeah.
But in my world, and I don't want to speak for you, Steph, but in our world, let's say, that's not normal drinking, is it? How can you leave half a drink?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this is always that interesting, paradigm of like, I want to be a normal drinker, but then when you think about what a normal drinker is, that's someone who can go into a restaurant and order a glass of wine, and that glass of wine sits there, but they're engaged in the conversation with the person they're with, and they barely even notice that glass of wine there, and they'll kind of nurse it throughout the evening, and then at the end, they pay the bill, and that glass is still sitting there with a bit in it, and they don't even notice it, and they walk away from the table. Like, that's a normal drinker. But for me to think that I want to be that, I can't even comprehend it, because I can't imagine not being the kind of drinker I was, which would be sitting there at the table, aware that I'm having a conversation with my friend, but really looking, where the hell's the waiter? And I need to make sure and order another drink so that I've got a drink in front of me, constant supply. If it's getting low, I'm getting anxious and I'm looking around for where the waitstaff is. That's the kind of drinker I am, and I can't imagine being the sort of drinker who doesn't care about that drink in front of them. So
makes me wonder if there is such thing as a normal drinker. I think it's such a powerful drug, alcohol, that when people who don't think we've got a problem, who probably on paper haven't got a problem, but they actually have got a problem, if that makes sense. It's weekend binges, weekly drinking, daily drinking, whatever. It's when you get into that stage, although it's not a problem on paper, that's the early stages of alcoholism. I know I'm being a little bit negative there, but it kind of is. There's no going back from that stage. It just gets more and more. I don't know of anyone who's got to that stage who gets hammered on weekends and stuff, and the next thing you'll see them and they'll have a weekend off or a month off. It just doesn't happen. It's just kind of with them. Once they're a drinker, they're a drinker.
So really, it's like in the context of drinking culture, the abnormal drinker is the person who can have one glass of wine and they don't even finish it and they don't even realize it's there. That's really the abnormal drinker. But you have the rest of the world who binge on weekends, get drunk occasionally, can take it or leave it a lot of times, but they
I always have this little, and this might sound silly, but if I've been on a long walk or a hike, and obviously I kind of go to country areas, scenic areas, and you'll see these little country pubs when I'm driving back home in the daylight. And I've often thought to myself, I've seen this little old man outside on his own with his pint of beer, his newspaper, and his cigarette, and his dog by his lap on the outside of the pub. And I just think that looks absolutely fantastic. That's kind of this romanticising in my head of how cool that would be. But then I think to myself, is that guy really struggling himself? Is that guy an addict? Does that guy have to be at that pub every day? Maybe that half a pint that you can see is the fifth one he's had, and he'll do another 5 before he leaves.
Maybe, or maybe his daily newspaper is more important to him than that pint.
Yes.
Maybe if he got to the pub and they didn't have his paper, he'd be more upset about that than not having his beer on.
I missed that part of drinking. I wasn't, when the program was developed, I missed that bit. I went straight from 0 to get hammered instantly.
Yeah. No, I did too. I mean, when I started drinking at 15, 16, it was obviously when kids at that age drink. You're not sipping on drinks. We were drinking beer through funnels. You're trying to get it into your body as quickly as possible to get drunk as quickly as possible. That's how I practiced drinking. That's how I learned to drink. I didn't learn to drink at home. I didn't grow up in a home where drinking was a part of our life in any way. My parents would go out occasionally on weekends, the two of them, and have wine with dinner, but it wasn't something that was served at our table. I never watched people drink, so I didn't learn how to do it normally. I learned how to get shit-faced.
Cool. What's the next question, Steph?
Okay, next question. Well, I suppose we sort of covered it, but the next question was, what made you decide to quit drinking? I guess we've kind of covered that. It was.
Yeah, I think we have.
I will say though, for me, through my drinking career, there were again stages of my addiction. It progressed, and I can sort of look at each decade and how much it had progressed. There were the times when I was really trying hard to moderate and control my drinking. Then there were the points when it had progressed and I wanted to just quit. I was just done. I didn't care anymore about being a part of drink culture. Still hanging on to it though. And then at the end, when it had gotten extremely bad, it was a life or death thing. It was, I've got to stop doing this or I'm going to die. So,
but that doesn't mean it's, that red light there isn't the end of it, is it, unfortunately?
No.
That's just kind of a flag, one of many after that. You think that's the rock bottom, you think that's, okay, enough's enough, got to do something.
Yeah.
And then you try to quit, and then you get all these other rock bottoms.
Yeah, I had a number of rock bottoms, and when you've had those rock bottoms, and when you're at that point in drinking, for me anyway, at the end, I really felt trapped. This is my life. I am extremely addicted to this drug, and I can't get out of it, and it was terrifying because I knew it was going to kill me, and I didn't think there was any way out. It didn't occur to me to go to my doctor and say, I have this problem. I need to go to a hospital. I need to go to a treatment center. It was just, I'm trapped in this, and I don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I don't see a way out. This is just
you can't see the wood for the trees at all when you're in the depths of it. It just reminds me, Steph. I like my memes, and it just reminds me of that one where there's a picture of a prison cell, and it says alcoholism, the only prison where the inmates hold the key to get out, and it's so true.
Yeah.
So true. But when you're in it, in the depths of it, like you say, there's just no daylight whatsoever.
Yeah. And I know it's different for everyone, and people hit that, sort of bottom in different places. At the end, for me, I was physically addicted to alcohol. I had to have it every single day, or else I was going to go into severe withdrawal. I could have died from it. And I was in a constant, for years, I was in a constant state of trying to taper myself off. I was meticulously writing down how much I'd had, exactly what time. I always had these lists where it was, okay, 5 o'clock was my first drink, it was 1.5 ounces, and then, half an hour later, it was another 1.5 ounces. I was measuring, and it was ridiculous. I mean, looking back, it was just the epitome of insanity, the way that I was measuring and counting and writing down, and I always felt like, this is it, this is the week it's going to happen, I'm gonna, and sometimes I could really taper down from a really high amount to a lower amount, but after like a week of the tapering and working so hard at it, it was like, oh, do you know what, I just want to buzz, I just want to feel the alcohol, because for days I didn't actually feel it. I was having upwards of 20 odd drinks and not necessarily feeling them, because I was just keeping the withdrawal away. And then it would creep back up. I would at the end of whatever amount I'd allowed myself, I thought, just one more so I can relax, so I can sleep. And then within a few days I was back up to the higher amount. It was really a hamster wheel.
Just for our listeners and for the people who don't know our stories, I think you'll be understanding our level of alcoholism that Steph was actually at. I wasn't quite as bad. Steph certainly top trumps me on the alcoholism game. I didn't have the blackouts or the having to drink to stop the shakes. Although saying that, I was drinking, at my very worst, close to a litre of whiskey a day, which is, just terrible. But I think you, Steph, you were at that next level, which I'm quite glad I didn't get to, I must admit. It's when I listen to you talking about it, it's even for me, who I consider myself a 100%, or in the past, I was a fully blown alcoholic, but you, my friend, the next level.
Well, and it's interesting. I've been doing some research on women and alcohol, and one of the things I'm finding is that women, because of their higher body fat percentage, which also means more water, alcohol becomes more concentrated in the blood more quickly. It does more damage more quickly, and women become addicted more quickly. So 1.5 ounces of distilled spirits, which is a standard drink, to you is different to me, even if we weighed the same amount. It's not just about body weight. Even if a man and a woman weigh the same amount, it's going to affect the woman more because she has a higher percentage of body fat. And so the alcohol stays in the body longer, it does more damage, and the addiction occurs at a much more rapid pace. So, we could get into a whole other thing about women and alcoholism, but
we'll save that for another video.
Yeah, we'll save that. It's become an epidemic, but I certainly fell into that trap. So, okay, next. We're sort of covering the questions as we go. The next question was, tell me about your daily drinking habits. You can go into that a little bit more in depth now. What was your drinking like?
It was very easy for me because obviously full-time work. We'll start first thing in the morning. So from the moment I woke up in the morning, I instantly felt crap. But before I would even, and this is genuine, before I would even let the notion of me feeling crap enter my head, the thought of, have I got whiskey in the house for tonight when I get in? That would be the first thought, and I'm not joking. That's the truth. If I hadn't, it's silly this actually, because I never woke up and didn't have any booze in the house. I wouldn't let that happen. I wouldn't have gone to bed not with having booze in the house for the next day. But anyway, yeah, that was my thought process. And then I never needed a drink in the morning or anything. I've heard a few people say that they've suffered from. I never had that. I was fine. I basically spent from getting up at 6 a.m. to about 2 p.m. I was just I was at this really high level of feeling crap, which progressively got better and better over the hours till around about 2 o'clock, when it was okay. That actually wasn't so bad. I don't feel too bad now, so maybe I'll have another drink tonight. So yeah, I'd get home from work about 5:30, maybe 6 p.m, and I would just pour a drink. Now, my drink, I always say this in my previous videos, I didn't throw the alcohol down my neck. I just poured a drink and drank it at a normal rate, but the glass was never empty until I went to bed. So there was no set limits. There was a very I'm sorry, I'm giggling about this. There was a very slight level of moderation happening on a work night, but that was kind of okay. Let's not do a full bottle. Let's just do half a bottle of whiskey. That was kind of the moderation thinking. And on a weeknight, Monday to Thursday, it would be 4 glasses, and that equated to just over half a bottle of whiskey, probably about 3/4 of whiskey, and then I'd go to bed. Absolutely longing for Friday, because that's the day I could drink, which is bizarre. And the Friday would be different. I would drink harder. I would drink faster. And yeah, Friday comes, I'd polish off a normal, in the UK it's a 70 centilitre bottle of whiskey. That's your normal size, sort of a £15 bottle. So I would polish that off on a Friday. I started going to the 1 litre bottles, and then we have a supermarket called Tesco in the UK, and they do a 1.5 litre bottle, which is proper alcoholic stuff. You see people walking out with this in their hands under the jackets and stuff. It's, you know, it's one of them things that normal people will put pennies in, you know, to save up.
Yeah.
We'll cut a hole in the lid, but not me. I was drinking one of them every 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I mean, obviously Friday was a write-off. Saturday there was no holes barred in the end. I would get up and I would pour a drink. Not that I wanted one. Well, I'm saying I didn't want one, but I obviously did want one. But it was, okay, I don't have to drive anywhere. I'm not doing anything where I have to be 100% alert, so I can have a little drink. And that's what I used to tell myself. And literally, from probably 7 a.m. on a Saturday morning, I'd have a whiskey in my hand all through the day, right through tonight, which I won't go off on a tangent, but that brought the really crappy eating habits with it, just eating junk as I went along. And I'll tell you what I still remember to this day is the feeling around about 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. on a Saturday evening of just how horrendous I felt, because you drank for that long and for that steady, you didn't get drunk as such. I just maintained this level of drunkenness. But to be fair, I could have operated machinery. I was that used to it. You know, if no one would have known I was drunk.
Drinking to feel normal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't slur or anything. Anyway, I'd feel horrendous. I'd get this. I still remember it now. The your tummy acid, the indigestion feeling. It was horrendous, and that's going to be horrible. You know, that bile when it sort of comes back up on you, and you can taste it in the back of your throat, and you realise I'm probably burning holes in my lining, in my body with this fire water. So yeah, but again, that'd take me to Sunday morning, and then I'd wake up and it was like, okay, be a little bit steadier because it's work day tomorrow. But that was out the window after a couple of hours, and then Sunday was just another full day on it. At least a litre of whiskey, at least. Crap food again, but I was good. I usually managed to stop around 8 p.m. on a Sunday evening and go to bed, have 1 glass of juice, and go to bed. And that was me setting myself up for the next day at work. What about you, Steph?
Well, again, I feel like to talk about my drinking habits and what it looked like, I kind of have to separate it out into the stages of my alcoholism. So early on, obviously, it said, teens, 20s, binge drinking, weekends. By my 30s, it was a more established pattern of the binge drinking. I didn't always drink during the week. I maybe would have a nightcap. It wasn't something I had to have. But the binge drinking on weekends, again, as I said before, I didn't trust myself. I knew if we were going to go out and get drunk, or if people were coming over, whatever, there was every chance. It didn't happen every single time, but there was every possibility I would end up on the floor or in some manner making a complete ass of myself. We just didn't know what was going to happen. I had blackouts, and those are horrendous. There's just nothing worse than waking up in the morning and having no idea what you've done or said the night before, and that happened a lot. But at the very end of my drinking, I would say the last 3 or 4 years, I just didn't get drunk. It would take such a enormous amount of alcohol. And I actually, the funny thing, because with alcoholism, it's a lack of control. But at the very end, I was drinking so much, but I actually had quite a lot of control. I would not let myself go beyond. It sounds ridiculous, but 20 drinks or whatever. It was like I won't go beyond that. And if I was at that point at the end of the evening, and we were drinking with people, and again, I wasn't even intoxicated, but when I knew I was at my limit, that if I had any more than that, I was going to feel so shit the next day, and that my withdrawal would start sooner, and the cravings would start sooner, and I would have to start sooner, I would actually dump drinks, or I would stop, because I just didn't want to have any more, because I knew how bad I would feel the next day. I had lost that kind of fuck it voice. I'm just going to keep going into oblivion, because I knew how bad I would feel the next day. So I was really actually controlling a very large amount of alcohol. I know, sounds bizarre. So, yeah, there were stages of my drinking behavior and what it looks like.
Scary stuff.
Scary stuff. So, we've covered a lot. Let's go over one more question, because I think this will be interesting. Glenn, tell us about your last drink.
Oh wow. Okay. My last drink. I have to think about this, because it wasn't the last drink I was supposed to be having, if that makes sense. Cut a very long story short, just in case you've seen my other videos, I got myself made redundant, so I'd taken some time off work to get myself right, to get myself sober, fitter, mentally and emotionally, just get generally healthier. And I kept blowing it every week, every weekend. I kept setting a new day one. This is it, and I kept blowing it. And I actually ran out of time. That's what happened. I'd love to sit here and say, yeah, I actually got off the booze myself. I planned the date and I did it. I actually didn't. I was heading for a huge rock bottom. Obviously didn't have a job. I was up at 21 stone, which is ridiculous. So unhealthy. Drinking is worse than ever. Financially, I was running out of cash. All my redundancy money was going, and I'd kept ballsing it up until I couldn't really balls it up anymore without losing the house, the wife, sorry, that sounds awful, my wife, or, and my son, or whatever, I don't know, I mean, it never got to that, thank goodness, but that's it, that I was there in my head, that I just got to this final Friday, that was supposed to be my last drink, and I actually made a video that Friday morning. It's on here, and it's on our channel, and it's me saying, this is what I'm gonna do, and I've run out of time. And I remember it wasn't even that. I made that at like 10 a.m. in the morning, and it wasn't like it was like 12 hours later. I think the drinking voice was back at me about 3 hours after I'd made it, and I just gave in straight away. It was like, yeah, well, it's Friday, so I've actually got a Saturday, so I'll do it tomorrow instead, and I did that, and then exactly the same happened, and it was like, all right, it's only Saturday, I've got Sunday, don't worry, Sunday's the last day, and I drank all that Sunday, but that's when I knew if I had have gone into that Monday, that would have been, look, I'm really lucky that I had that wariness, I knew that, because I dread to think what would have happened if I'd had a drink on that Monday and gone into a new week, because I probably wouldn't be sat here now, I could have been dead, I don't know, who knows where I'd be, but I had enough about me just to know that I couldn't do it anymore. And again, it wasn't like hell. I probably wasn't for the right reasons. I did it. It was because I was probably gonna, it was more financial, I'm guessing, if I'm honest. But I suppose who cares? It's whatever works, doesn't it? It's whatever gets you off of it. I got to that Sunday night, and I don't think I actually believed on the Sunday night that I was going to wake up Monday morning and that was it. But anyway, I didn't make a big deal about it. I remember the last drink. In fact, if I'm honest, I don't remember the last drink. I just remember finishing the bottle, because I don't know about you, I could never leave any bottle, because if I wouldn't pour it down the sink, and if I left a couple of glasses in the bottle, then that was just setting myself up to drink the next day. So I think the way it fell, I just finished that bottle off at whatever time Sunday night, and that was it. Monday was a new day. I mean, obviously it was horrendous. I won't go into all the detail of that, but as you can imagine, that was Monday was the day one, and then I thought it was hard then, but then it got a lot harder. What about you?
Okay, so my last drink, I have to talk about. I need to describe two of my last drinks. So I joined our group in September of last year, but I didn't get sober finally get sober until.
Can I just jump in there?
You can.
Steph, just very quickly, just for the audience, for the new people, the group Steph just referenced to is called Onwards and Upwards. It's what you call a secret private Facebook group, which is run by Kevin O'Hara, and is absolutely fantastic group. Sorry, we've been members for a long time. So in our videos, you might hear us referencing the group, and that's what we mean by that. Sorry, Steph, just to let people know.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I joined Onwards and Upwards in September, and but I got sober finally in October. So my last drink was pretty pathetic. It was after I'd been sober off the drink for several weeks, and it was one night I just couldn't sleep. I was pissed off with not being able to sleep because it had been like days and days since I'd slept. I was just night after night lying on the bed, just staring at the ceiling, and I just had gotten fed up. And I went downstairs, and I knew that there was some beer in the fridge in the garage, and I just grabbed, I don't know, 3 of them maybe, and just sat there chugging cans of beer until my stomach was so bloated and full. It didn't do anything to me. I didn't get a buzz. I didn't feel tired. I just thought, well, this is stupid because I'm just going to be up all night pissing. This is not helping at all. This is, and I just remember just chucking the cans in the bin and going, right, well, I guess, I'm not going to sleep, and I didn't sleep. So that was my last drink, but my last drink from when I was in the really, really bad stage of my alcoholism, I had to actually taper off alcohol, and I should have gone to a detox. I'm sure of that, a medical detox, but we did it. When I say we, my husband helped me, because when I finally did get sober, we'd had this conversation that we had so many times before, which was me going to him crying and saying, this has gotten out of control. I have to stop. This has to be the end. We have to do it this time. And every time in the past when we'd had that conversation, and I really meant it, I truly, truly meant that I wanted to stop, we didn't change enough. Things didn't change. What needed to change was getting alcohol out of my environment. So this time we said, right, we're going to do this differently. I said, I want all the alcohol out of the house. And what my husband ended up doing was taking everything and locking it up in the basement in the cold room. Went and bought a lock for the door, locked it up. But I wasn't able to quit cold turkey. I couldn't do that. I physically couldn't do that. So what we did was we looked online how to taper off alcohol, and got some information. And so first established my baseline, which was how much I was drinking, and it was about a bottle of vodka. So over a period of, it was about 10 days, we had kind of written out a program of, how I was going to taper. So every few days, cutting the amount by a certain amount until I was off. So we measured it all out into plastic water bottles, and we had them labeled for each day of the week. So every night, my husband would go down to the basement, get my plastic water bottle of vodka and bring it to me. And I would try to start it as late as possible in the evening so that I would savor it, so to speak. And it was not enough to give me any sort of relief from the discomfort. It kept me out of severe withdrawal. It kept my blood pressure from going through the roof and probably kept me from having a seizure. But the last one, there wasn't very much in the bottle. I don't know how much, but I would lie on the bed with my bottle of a little bit of vodka and just let it like drip into my mouth until it was gone. And even I found myself like kind of like sucking the fumes from this plastic bottle, like trying to get every last bit of it. And then when it was gone, that was it. There was no more. There was no going downstairs and asking my husband if I could have more. That was it. And it sucked and it was horrible, but I'll never forget how pathetic I felt lying there letting vodka drip into my mouth from a plastic water bottle. And so there is no romanticizing alcohol for me. There's no.
But just on that, I mean, I think that sense of shame and desperation you're talking about there. I mean, that just shows you. I mean, I'm just sort of picturing you doing that, and I'm making it worse for myself because I'm thinking, someone could have poured some vodka into a dirty cup full of other stuff, and you would have still drunk it, wouldn't you, back then?
God, yes.
Just to get.
Oh my God, yes. I remember reading something once, and it was like about addiction, and it was, would you walk across broken glass to get your drug, to get your alcohol? And you think about that. Well, that would really be horrible. If I was standing there and there was broken glass and my drink was on the other side of it, I would figure out a way to get to it. I would probably get cut. I wouldn't necessarily trample all over it, but I would figure it out. Oh yeah. I wouldn't just go, oh no, that's going to be too painful. No.
Yeah. It just reminds me. I can't give a lady credit. It's one of the videos that we've watched numerous times. The American news reader, I think she was, anchor woman, I think she was, and I think it was that one line where she said you might have to jump in here, Steph. It was I would die for my children, but I couldn't stop drinking for them.
Yeah.
And it's just that when you just analyse what she just said, I just think no other one-liner sentence sums up alcoholism better than that.
No.
No,
that's spot on.
That's how desperate it is.
That's spot on, because the number of times that I would, sit in my room and like maybe look at a picture of my kids or just think about them and just tears streaming down my face, sobbing uncontrollably. I've got to quit. I'm going to do this for them. And this powerful determination would take over, and it was like, right, this is it. I'm doing it for them. And then the next day, that same resolve would be there, but by, midday, whenever the cravings would kick in, there was some excuse. There was, yeah.
Oh, it was just Groundhog Day, wasn't it? I think that's what we all suffered from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow.
This has been good.
It's been excellent. I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have too.
It's been really good.
I have too.
I think we should probably leave it at that, because obviously we've got many more videos to make. Because we could go off on tangents everywhere.
Yes.
But I think we'll catalogue them video by video. But that was great. I know you really well, but I've learned new things about you today, which is awesome.
Yes.
I'll let you close the video, Steph. Say goodbye.
Well, thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you tune in to see all of our future videos. We hope to interview some other people, as Glenn mentioned at the beginning of the recording. So, thank you very much.
See you later, guys. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.